definitely welcome you guys. You too. Thank you for coming. We're very happy to have you here. And you know, because I wasn't supposed to be here, I didn't want to steal the thunder from my colleagues who are, you know, in general smarter than I am, so they can talk more elaborately about things which we do. So I didn't want to spend too much time talking. I basically just wanted to do the short introduction and say why we are here, why we are doing it, and you will hear it through the technical piece also, anyway. But you know, why we actually started doing what we are doing is we wanted to protect the most vulnerable users of the internet, which basically are the end users and homes. And we started as a research and moved into a little bit of a commercial production about 5 years ago. And this, I would say, is our kind of first venture into the US market. We always eyed the US market, but it took us a while to kind of get the house in order and start coming in more regularly. We would have done this about 2 years ago, unless COVID happened. So here we are, trying to do a little bit of enlightenment that Europe can still produce very decent technical stuff, not only software but also hardware, and that it can be done well, so it can last almost a lifetime if you do it well. So we have even the first routers we ever produced for the research initially still work. And we probably have to be mainly thankful to all our customers for that they take such good care of that. We of course provide all the updates and everything, but it's basically their effort that something 8 years old still runs, and they are willing to put in the effort to upgrade it with us to the US system. So what's going to happen here is Frank is going to take you through a little bit of history, and Mike is going to talk about a lot of the technical details which we think are really interesting, which is the extra security and how we do that. And Radek is going to tell you everything about business side of things. Thank you for being here, and if you have a question at any time, just shout it out because it's kind of like a family. So we are worrying you about you, don't be afraid. Don't worry, I'll talk to you. Well, better. Right.
Hey guys, so welcome. We are glad to be here. It's just our second time in the US market on some events organized by WISPA. And we've been to WISPA Palooza last year. It was basically our first introduction in the ISP world in the US market. And we see a lot of opportunities and things that can improve even for you guys, not only for us on our business side, because all the stuff like vendor logs and other things that are taking a toll on you. And we do believe in open source. We have it in our blood, and we want to tell you more about how and why we are doing stuff. So let's start with the past. So we have started, as Peter had mentioned, as a research project of Czech domain name registry back then in 2013, and we have produced 2 devices. It was Turris 1.0 and Turris 1.1. They were almost similar in terms of CPU and RAM, but there were some changes in the chassis. For example, Turris 1.1 had USB 3 and a different cover, for example. And so then we have decided to do more and to produce devices that will be, that we will be able to get to the wider audience out there, because the original devices were just for the Czech market. So we think that router should be secure, powerful, and open source, and most importantly of all, it should have automatic updates. So this was the Turris 1.0 and Turris 1.1. So you can see some of the stats of the router on the feature side. So it was a really good and decent device back then, and it's still more than powerful even for today's applications. So you don't see any other router in this category these days that will have, for example, 2 GB of RAM. So we really like to take care of the stuff. So we don't think to get rid of the old products. So even the old ones, those 2 old routers that are more than 8 years on the market, they are still relevant because we are providing automatic updates for them, and we even let people, or we will let people to do 5.6 upgrade when it will be coming later this year. So as I mentioned, there was a huge milestone for us. It was Turris OS 5.x or 5.3, and we were bringing all the old devices from the past to be up to date. And the same we are going to do with Turris OS 6.0. That is in development or final testing right now. So you will, think about any other router manufacturer that can provide you with a new software, as well as hardware upgrade kits for like 8 years. There's nothing like that. No modularity of this kind. But we can do that, and we strive to do that even more. So Wi-Fi 6 upgrade kit is coming as well for the old devices. So our current flagship is called Turris Omnia 2020. It was our answer to the demand from abroad. So people, even from US market, were asking, can we get the secure, smart, modular device and buy it here? So we decided to test the market, and we went for Indiegogo campaign, and we have raised 1.2 million USD. Then we incorporated, FCC certified the device and started to sell it in the US as well. Right now you can get it on Amazon, and of course we are looking for distributors and other partners. When we are looking at the current state of things in our industry, we see two big changes, or at least that's my humble perspective. So we see change in the last mile. So I will talk about it later. And the other thing is customer premise. So everything behind the CPE. So think router or any other device that you might have. So as for the last mile, we can see, or I can see the change from 5 GHz patch array sectors to horns, millimeter wave, license, fiber, CBRS, and you name it. Some of you might know me from the past. I was working with our elements, and we were basically improving old patch array sector with horns, WISPA, and other reasonable approach to dealing with noise, interference, and this kind of stuff. And I'm really glad to see my former colleagues to do that thing even more right now. So on the picture you can see some crazy collocations that are basically not possible with any other old vendor antenna type. But this will be doable for some applications, but it's not for all. So others from you might use fiber more applied on the last mile, or CBRS. Like for us, CBRS will be next thing that we need to learn for the US market, especially because you will have a lot of space to grow in this frequency spectrum. So we are taking a look on it. As for the thing that's really in our interest, it's a customer premise. And as for the routers, we see like at least three things that are really important and will be even more important in the near future. And that's like not in a particular order. We can talk about remote management, we can talk about security of the devices and networks, and we can talk about quality of service. And those things can be, put into many perspectives. Some of them will be my colleagues Michael and Radovan will speak about it. But as for me, router management means that you can upsell. The security is the same. You can upsell some kind of services to the people. For example, like some kind of intrusion detections, intrusion prevention maybe in the future, as well as VPNs or quality of service. Like these kind of things are coming. We see the companies like Pre-C, or we see like the native stuff produced by companies like Cambridge Networks. So they have their own solutions for this problem. We have a tagline, the short one, that says more than a router. So we would like to see the routers at your homes or small, medium offices to be more than just a dumb single device that will provide the connectivity. We want to have secure houses, so you can think about our router as a gateway or the brain of the network at homes or small, medium offices. We like to have it colorful as well, so we are preparing the limited editions of our current flagship. It will come in 5 colors. Here you can see 3 of them, and on the next slide there are 2 more. And we have offered one of the bronze limited edition routers to WISPA auction. So there might be still some time to place a bid. You can see the redacted written on it, but we have mentioned that already. So the limited edition will be bundled with NFT. Okay.
Any questions? Just for clear, router Wi-Fi on one side, obviously a wired transport is an option, but so all your potential radio types like CBRS or
we are thinking about it. We need to find the right device, right module, right. So we are starting to look into it. We have some idea finally about what does it mean for us, and we will explore.
So right now, your main upstream is just going to be a wired transport.
Yes, and we can do actually second type of connectivity like LTE. So you can have a failover, for example, and or you can have LTE as a primary connectivity for you that might work for you on iOS, for example.
Okay.
So here you can see a picture from Mobile World Congress Barcelona this year, and we have introduced a new device that hopefully we will put on the market by the end of the year if the current semiconductor shortage collapse. So this is the Turris Omnia 2022. The name is only for name, so it can change. Then the 6 connectors you can see are 6 SFPs, and 3 of them might be 10 gig. So it will be even more powerful device than current function. And routers can do more than just routing, so they can even kill modems. So if I may share some of the specs of the device, we are aiming to have 2 GHz CPUs, 4 cores, 64-bit, and up to 16 GB of DDR4 RAM. Like, hopefully the plans will play out, but we are really trying to build a really powerful device that will stay relevant as our former products 5 to 10 years on the market with upgrades of Wi-Fi standards or 3GPP, as well as with continuous improvements, like adding features that we do with automatic updates. And when we internally introduced the upcoming limited editions of our router, there was a guy at the company that decided that our CEO looks a bit like Steve Jobs. So he put together this picture. So we wanted to plug it in like a shameless plug. You know, you have you used to have this kind of guy here that
They'll come back and haunt you someday.
Yeah. So
I'm pretty sure it will, yeah.
Yeah, he has built devices that are in our pockets right now, and we would like to build the devices that will be in your homes. And that's basically everything from me. So you can ask some marketing related or questions, or if you don't have any as of now, I will call Michael, our CPO, and then he will tell you more.
I'm saving most of my questions for the end.
Okay.
I don't want to get hanged. I might ask a question they're just going to answer anyway, so I don't want to steal your thunder.
Thank you.
So, I will be talking about how to build stuff, and yeah, let's start with our way of making routers. We rely on free and open source software because, well, we have enough resources. We also have enough resources to run various additional services. We have repositories full of additional software that you can install. We are trying to make our routers powerful, so they can be much more than just a router and run various services that will help your home. As Ross already mentioned, we think that the important part of making any hardware device is to ensure that it can be secure and it can be updated and up to date. So we are making automatic updates to our routers. So our routers will download the latest update, install it, and then they will just manually do a result, like we fix those bugs. And by the way, there is this new cool feature that you might be interested in trying. If you don't worry, it's secure, but yeah, next time we will add some other feature. This time you might be interested.
I'll dive in and ask you, so you're running open source, you have the Linux kernel, I presume, on ARM, right?
Yeah.
By yourself, you're building an entire distribution yourself, or are you recycling another distribution?
You will see.
Don't count it out.
It will count it. Yeah. Well, one thing that we believe in is also tinkerability. So you get a root account to your router because it's your device. So you deserve to own it and have it under your control. We also allow you to open up the case. We are not using any special screws. We are just using normal Phillips screws. If you open up the device, you wouldn't void the warranty. You can exchange the cards. We are not trying to lock you out of the device. It's your device. You should be free to do whatever you want with it. And we are adding a few extra features. Regarding security, for example, one of the things that we started doing is DNS state validation when we started with the routers. That's something that even nowadays almost nobody does. So, why did we choose open source? Well, is there really any other way how to develop devices nowadays? It gets you started much easier, much faster. You have plenty of software that you just need to integrate. You don't have to do everything by yourself. You are profiting from work that is done around the world. Plenty of people are working on solutions that you can use, integrate, and benefit from. Apart from that, if you publish your stuff as open source, people can fix their problems. They don't have to hunt you and convince you to fix their issue. Whenever they have an issue that is important for them, they can fix it directly, fast, deploy it, and be happy, and send you actually the fix and help themselves. And they can even customize it as much as they want. One example is that some of our customers, big business customers, came to us with products already developed. They just bought few routers from Amazon, developed their product based on what we make available, and they just came and said, hey, we've got new firmware for your routers with our extra stuff, and we just need you to manufacture it for us. We did everything without you even knowing that we are trying something. So that's great, right? And you don't have to be a big company to do that. You can do it in your garage over the weekend and sell it to your neighbor. There are also some downsides with doing open source, because people are really used to using open source nowadays. So there is plenty of software to integrate, and if we allow people root accounts and access and allow them to install additional services, they want everything. So if there is an editor that 3 people on the world are using, and one of them is our customer, he will complain that we don't ship it and we didn't have packaging for it. But yeah, he can actually do it himself. That's the beauty of the open source. Another downside of our way of doing stuff is that we give our customers a lot of power, and with a lot of power there comes a huge responsibility, as was told for Spider-Man, right? People with a lot of power can do a lot of damage, so they are really creative in shooting themselves in the foot. So,
have you run across that where people, obviously break the router, and then, where do you draw the line of like, okay, we'll ship you a new one because it's our fault versus, oh, that's something you did. How do you diagnose when they've done something that's kind of outside the bounds of reasonable?
Actually, when we were making the routers, we made sure that it's easy to recover from any such issue. So they might lose their configuration if they screw up badly enough. But there are various how-tos on our website, and there's actually a really easy way how to reflash an old router and make it new. So we thought about that and made sure that we have a simple answer for them how to recover. Yeah, and the downside of doing stuff in an open way as we do is that we have no idea in what state the routers are and what people did. So when we are doing updates, sometimes people have some crazy configurations and some crazy hacks deployed on their router, and sometimes we break it because they did something that they are supposed not to do. They did it in a really hacky way, and we change something and something breaks. But those cases are quite rare. But it's something that we have to take into account when doing update. So it brings us some extra work. Another part of being open source is upstreaming everything. We want everything upstream, people want everything upstream. Upstream wants support for everything, so we all agree on that. The part is that some people want everything upstream before we release the device. In upstream, they want to have some quality code and put it in reasonable places, and that takes time. So, yeah, it takes time, but we have almost everything in upstream for our flagship. I think one thing that we are still fighting over is how to control RGB LEDs and how to represent the RGB colors. That's the most important discussions right now. Apart from that, everything should be working. So, I was speaking about us having open source software inside. So, what's in there? We are based on OpenWRT Linux distribution. It's a Linux distribution that is focusing on various routers. So, it has quite some bits and pieces that helps us to make our router better router. We don't have to develop everything by ourselves. But there are some downsides to it as well. It's optimized for really small devices. You know, the average router that you buy, it has 100 megs of RAM and 8 megs of storage. Our routers have 2 gigs of RAM and 8 gigs of storage, so they are completely different beasts. So we are doing stuff a little bit differently. But one of the advantages is that there is a real Linux distribution with plenty of packages available. We regularly contribute to OpenWRT community. We are maintaining several packages. We are sending security fixes whenever we found it first. And yeah, we are actively participating in the community and making the world a better place. What we did on top of OpenWRT is that we created our own user interface to make it much simpler for the users. OpenWRT is made by open source volunteers, hackers, and engineers. So, yeah, for me, the user interface is great, and I can do plenty of stuff. But I understand that there is an average user that doesn't really get it, and don't want to spend a whole day reading manuals and understanding what are the bridges and IPs and routing protocols and how to set it up correctly. So we made an easy user interface called Turris, and we are trying to take the basic functionality and put it in there in as simple way as possible. And one great example of what we did is that we put in there OpenVPN server setup. If you ever set up OpenVPN, you know that you need to have certification authority, manage issuing certificates, certificate revocations. You need to create a configuration file for every client and stuff like that. Even if you know what you are doing, it's a lot of boring work, and you easily mess up. So we put it into our web user interface, and with few clicks, you can create a new OpenVPN client that will connect to your router, and you can connect home from wherever you are. For updates, we created our own software that is taking care of automatically updating the router. It first fetches the list of available software, makes sure that there is a migration path between the current state of the router and the future state, downloads all the packages, and then updates the router, and make sure that it's going from one working state to another. Another interesting bit piece that we have is we are not using highly compressed images on our storage. We have 8 gigs, so we don't have to be so cheap. So we are using Btrfs. It's the coolest file system there is in Linux world. One of the cool features that we have, thanks to it, is snapshots. And snapshots are really great. You can do snapshots before you upgrade, you can do snapshots after you upgrade, you can do snapshots weekly, and we are doing all of them. And we are making sure that people can use them, so there is a CLI utility that allows you to list the snapshots that you have on your router. And even if you break the connectivity to your router, there is a reset button on that side of the router, and with simple press of that button, we have multiple modes, but with the press of the button, you can basically roll back to the previous snapshot. So before you start doing something dangerous, you know, when we went to Urban Street and were drinking and then came back and decided to reconfigure your network and fall asleep halfway and didn't finish and you can't connect to your router anymore. So you press the reset button and you go back to the snapshot that was done a week ago, where everything worked, and you can start from scratch again. And make sure that you do it correctly this time, and that you will finish. If stuff that we have already on the router is not enough, we also support Linux containers, so you can use any other distribution. RV7 is nowadays mainstream platform, so plenty of distribution have ports for RV7. You can deploy virtual environment there and run some virtualized services and have several virtual servers running on your router. That sounds like fun, right? Another thing that we thought might be a good fit is the Nextcloud. Nextcloud is a solution for hosting your calendar, your contact, and your files. It has a nice web interface. You can synchronize it with your phones, your computers, and stuff. And all these data are probably quite sensitive, and you want to protect them, right? So you want to have them on some machine that is automatically updated, has great security, and you control where it is. So what better place to do it than your flat, in your living room? On our we already spoke a little bit about remote management and orchestration and monitoring. One really cool thing about our routers is that they are yet another Linux server that you put into your network. So you don't have to use any special type of management just for our routers. You can use standard tools that you use for managing your server infrastructure. You can use Ansible, you can use Zabbix, Influx, and all those major tools. If you don't want to, there are other options as well. There is OpenWISP, which is open source remote management platform for OpenWRT routers. And there are also quite some other remote management stuff like Minim, ISPN, and stuff like that, who have open source clients that can be installed on our router. And if you are enterprisey, then you might be using stuff like TR69 or SNMP. There are servers on the router that support this kind of protocol, so you can connect to our routers over SNMP or TR69, but you have to customize it a little bit to make sure that it works with your server. The advantage is that you can make it as much as, you can customize it as much as you want, so you can mimic the API that other devices have. So you do not have to configure your server specifically for Turris. You can configure your Turris to mimic the other devices that you have on your network.
So do those services, are they open work packages or are they containers? Right.
They are OpenWRT packages. So some security features, some security extra features that we have. One of them is Python. It's our netflow collector. It collects netflows from your local network to the internet and visualize them for you. It also adds a little bit more information. It looks at TLS handshakes and DNS requests. So it knows the names of the server that you are connecting to. If you are connecting to some server in cloud, in some CDN, then it can be multiple different things, from cooking to terrorist hangar. So you want to know whether you are connected, if you are concerned about your kitchen or your city. So you want to know a lot. So that's what we do. We collect those information, but again, those information can be and are quite sensitive. So we are storing them directly on the router, and you can have access to them, but we don't see it from the outside. It's stored locally in your living room, and nobody can access it. It actually started from us playing with Suricata, which is IDS solution. We found that it easily produces a lot of interesting data. We created some proof of concept, iterated over it, and found out that it's really easy to get started with such a project. It was done very quickly. Then we just polished it a little bit, and we had really great functionality that our users use quite often.
Is it the packet capture occur at the bridge level, or is it across the whole LAN?
It's capturing on the bridge, so it doesn't catch the traffic between the LAN devices. It's mainly monitoring the traffic that is going up to the internet.
Just curious. Comparison, I have a Meraki switch in my attic at home, and the heaviest users are my backups, my desktops, my file server. Every night, they move tens, hundreds of gigs, but then they kind of overshadow the WAN interface. I'm like, how much internet did I use? It's choice.
Yeah, well, we thought that mostly you are interested about what's going outside of your network.
Yeah.
But it could be configured differently. But you would have to segment some of them. So, the reason for why we created the backend was basically to give users some insight into traffic on this network, and especially with the rise of IoT devices. You buy IoT devices for $5 from China, and then you put it into your network. So it might be interesting to know what they are actually doing online and why they need to be connected to the internet and what's going on, and whether they are transmitting gigabytes of data somewhere to China.
So, both my question I saw on the previous slide, you have a guest Wi-Fi SSID, right? And somewhat familiar with open word. You have an easy way to build multiple SIDs and ELAN them out effectively so you can segregate data. So in my hypothetical house, I want my personal stuff, I want guest Wi-Fi, and I want an IoT SSID, just so I can package all those guys into one network.
We currently have an easy way how to do the main network and the guest network, and we are thinking about the IoT one, but we don't have it yet. Basically it's yet another guest network, but the guest network that you need to be able to connect to from your home network. Yeah. But we actually published, I'm not sure if we actually published it yet, but either we published it or we plan to publish some how to create it manually.
It seems like in the industry there's kind of a balance going on. I'll think about plumes, for example. You, if their work model, you do up to 3 SSIDs, that's it. Their home model, they just do a single SSID with password segregation. It's kind of weird, I think. But it's neat. And then you get Meraki AP. They'll let you put all 16 SSIDs on there, but then people don't realize about beaconing, so you might kill yourself with SSIDs. So.
Yeah, well, we have, as I said, we have our own web interface. In that one, you have these simple choices like one network and one guest network. But then there is a Lucy interface that we inherit from OpenWRT, and there you can define as many separate networks as you want, including various SSIDs, VLANs, bridging, filtering, firewalling, and stuff like that. But for that you should at least know a little bit what you are doing. We plan to iterate over the platform in the future. When we deployed it, it was all kind of proof of concept. We found out that it's really useful, so we are improving it over the time. We are actually in the process of redesigning it. We are adding CSV exports so we can put data into Excel sheets, because we found out that most of the people don't understand databases, but they understand Excel sheets, and they are similarly powerful if you have small data. And actually, in the end, we are dropping dependency on Suricata that we started with, because we found out that we are using it just to collect the network data, and we can collect the network data effectively, much more effectively in some other way. One other thing that we are doing is called Modular, and when we were playing with the IDS solution, we wanted to ultimately deploy IDS on the router. But then we decided to go a different way with Platform. So we created a new project that is basically about integrating IDS into your home router. We currently have another proof of concept. We decided to use Snort for this one because it has a really nice plugin infrastructure, it's a Modular plugins. And currently what it does is whenever there is the rule is triggered, it will email the user of the router and display some notification in the user interface, and also it's logging all the possible violations of the rules. And in the future we will develop even some web application to configure it more and display the history of the alerts and stuff like that. But currently, emails are really easy to get to, and we want to test how usable and how it will be received by our users. So we can polish the amount of alerts and rule sets that we will deploy and stuff like that.
We were talking about if this, then that. And here's a neat RESTful API-like solution that they can generate emails for you or send phone notifications or Twitter or anything else. Just an idea.
Well, actually, one of the software that some other people are deploying is Node-RED. If they are having some IoT solutions, and I think those Node-RED is integrating with that, with FTD. But yeah, currently we are doing just an email, but in future we might want to go to not IDS but IPS and do some more configuration of the whole system. Basically, notifications are great, but even better is if your router takes automatic action and doesn't notify you, just solves the problem. And that's actually what we have under the name of Sentinel. This is something different. So far I was talking about getting more insight into your local network and about knowing what's going on in your local network and protecting and getting early warnings whenever there is some security issue in your local network already. Sentinel is actually about protecting your local network from the outside threats. How it works is that on our routers, you can enable various small honeypots. Those honeypots are really extremely simple. We didn't want it to be a potential security issue, so they simulate really only minimal functionality. For example, they just ask you for the login, get to your credentials, and then close the connection. So we are basically collecting attempts to log into your router, either FTP, SMTP, HTTP, Telnet, whatever. And whenever attacker tries to get to your router, the router will notify our servers. They will evaluate what they know about the source of the attack, and based on that, they might decide that it is a real attack attempt, and then they will update the firewall of all the routers around the world. So whenever there is a new attack starting, after hitting a few of our routers, the rest of our routers already knows. So if you are running, for example, Nextcloud on your router and have it open to the internet, whenever somebody tries to attack our routers, your firewall gets updated and he wouldn't get even to try to break into your Nextcloud installation.
Are you going to do a showdown? They come scan all your errors. Showdown out.
Yeah, we have a whitelist for some of the good services that we know of. Like there are some kind of scanners like this one that actually are the good guys.
Right.
So we have exceptions for them if we know about them. For some of them, they protect their IPs and they don't show where they are scanning from. So for those, we treat them as any other potential security issue. So, and because we collect some data, we also have some nice statistics. So this is, for example, amount of attacks over the time. You can see the man who was the most evil. You can choose various time intervals. And yeah, we also have the list of top evil countries.
So US is number 2.
Yeah, you have to try a little bit harder to get to number 1.
But it's hard to beat China, right? In anything. So.
Yeah, but India is getting close. We are trying here. Yeah, but I hope there is a link there. If not, it's view.sentinel.turris.cz, and you can go online and check the last graphs and browse through the data.
I just met a guy yesterday, or a guy introduced you, I don't know what his name is, the guy was Cyru, CYMRU, you've heard of them? They're apparently a blacklisting service, but then they want to integrate with manufacturers to a degree so that not only do you block inbound connections based on the blacklist, the blacklist will tell you if traffic is originating from your IP space, and you can block outbound traffic based on that blacklist too. So, I don't know. I didn't get a sense for how far down the road they were with how many customers they had. And apparently they integrate microchip, which I don't have any of, so that's fine.
Well, we are actually with this present hall, we are looking forward to basically making it a separate service that we will offer separately. Offer ISPs to either use our blacklist or contribute some data to us or get notification whenever we receive some attacks from the network. So that's something that we are working on right now, and that's where we see the future of Sentinel getting it not only on the routers. We already have quite a huge network of routers monitoring the traffic, but we want to use it to help ISPs to secure their networks and to find security incidents faster. So there might be an opportunity for business.
Yeah.
So, and that was the last note from me, and now, thanks, sir.
How do you quick? Got like 1 minute left, technically.
1 minute? You're not going to be super fast, but I can reach 1 minute.
I'm not going to agree. You got 5 minutes.
Afternoon, thank you, Michael, for your speech. Thank you, Peter, for the introduction, and František for semantic stuff. My name is František, and I have our sales in Turris. Let's talk about the operations, the best TCO ever you can get, and applications that means the real stories of our customers, that means that we can show you on real cases that Turris really works in real life. Operations. During the stages of Michael and František, you saw that we have a smooth, fast, and very intuitive, let's say, management and the whole operation system. Because we are based on the open WRT and we do a reference, let's say, layer which makes your customers' life even more easy for, let's say, majority of the setup. But it's very important is the fact that hardware and software is developed in-house. We don't use any external agencies for, let's say, developing either or programming any part of our solution. Everything is done in the EU, in Czech Republic, as well as production. There is no China or Taiwan, nothing against them, but that's significantly, let's say, is cutting down lead time. And we have full control over the production, which is out in the Czech Republic and in the center of Europe. And for that reason, we are able to provide this high level of customization with very reasonable time and with very affordable price. In the case that you want to have a local home router of you, of your company, of your customer, as well as for example, implementation of LTE or changing the hardware setup, feel free to ask for the quotation and discuss with us the possibilities. This is about the lightweight customization. Let's talk about the TCO. Quite often I hear from the people, hey, Turris is great, but it's expensive. Yesterday, during the keynote, David or someone from those speakers had a really great speech in relation to the costs. He mentioned that especially the OPEX are the things which can kill any company, not only ISP but almost anyone. And for that reason, it's really a must to care about the TCO and especially the OPEX. I will show you how do we calculate the TCO, how do we handle CAPEX and OPEX. And as was mentioned during previous stages, we are on the market since 2017, that means over 9 years. And within that time, our routers, they got over 100 updates for free. Show me any other different supplier around the globe who is able to support for free 9-year-old device. None of them. No. And thanks to the modularity of the system, you can reach us at a boost, and we will show you exactly how the device looks and how the device works. You can have, let's say, the device from the year 2017 with Wi-Fi 6. You can plug them with LTE, or you can have it, let's say, fully in a full condition, as the new current, let's say, devices. What do we do in the free updates? We get about the security and bug fixes. So that means that it takes a very short time when we get the information that something is going on, we immediately there. That thanks to the fact that we have the developers in-house. And at least you know that we take your information for some requirement for changes and we will work with them. As I mentioned, you can ask your current router supplier how do they handle, let's say, the information about the updates, about the new features and so on. I don't want to, let's say, bore you here with the slide, because I needed to put there a lot of information, a lot of numbers, but you can download the presentation or you can ask me for it and we will share it with you. But the basic idea is that we take a Turris Omnia, which we have in our boost with pricing 340 USD on VAT. And in the case that you take another, let's say, industry similar security standard, which is priced pretty similar, 380. And this is the purchasing price. Within 1 hour, you set up the device, and the device is ready to run. The second year, you don't have to care about anything because simply the device runs. Auto updates on, and that's it. But the second or third year, you found out that you have to put there LTE or 5G or any other technology. Thanks to the modularity of Turris, you just pay $100 for the internal card. That's it. You don't have to change the model. And within 1 hour, you have the installation done, including all firmware updates and patches and drivers and so on. But in the case of the another solution which are on the market, which doesn't have internal slots, you have to buy a more expensive USB device or completely own new device. And it takes you some time. So that means when you come to this year after a couple of years,
with some easy, let's say, update, you significantly see here that the TCO is 15% up compared to ours. This is one case. When you compare, let's say, the device, let's say, some really powerful device, secure device, and so on. And this is the case that this country supplier doesn't require after 2 or 3 years for any subscription. Because immediately the second or the third year, there is hundreds of the bucks for subscription for next time. Yeah, right. Those are the real numbers, those are not the tricky or marketing. I don't do that, I don't like it. I'm an open guy. In the case that very often our customers and partners and ISPs, they are charging us, hey, Omnia is great, but 340 is simply too much. We need a device priced below 160 bucks or less. I think, okay, but think about that fact that you take the device, you spend a lot of time deciding like this firmware. Quite often that doesn't work because of some reason, or is not compatible with your network or whatever. The second year you don't need to care about the Omnia at all, but you spend a lot of time and discussion with your distributor or supplier or where is the new firmware, because that's simply there is some bug or critical security issue, if they repair that or not, and what going to do with the device. At the third year, when you suddenly need to plug to the customer, let's say, new standard of Wi-Fi or new LTE or 5G technology, you simply get the car, plug it to the Turris, and that's it within 1 hour. Okay, very, let's say, easy counting, you are below 500 bucks. But in the case that you want to plug any card or change any hardware configuration in that, let's say, very cheap home router, you have to buy a new one, but even more powerful, plus some external device that costs you a lot of time, a lot of energy, and finally you'll see that you are, let's say, 5% above the price of the Omnia. And we can roll out the time so that we use support 9 years because we didn't produce it early, just before 9 years. So you can roll it up to 9 years, and significantly you see that here will be the number, let's say, close to 500, and this number will roll out to 1,000. This is the reason, and this is the easy math. This is not rocket science. Again, this slide I put to my presentation because you saw those concrete numbers. I was unable to show you how did we calculate TCO, and that those numbers are real. Because if I put that just a hey, 3 years TCO is 500. How did that matter? It's great. So we have a lot of references. Now you know that operating Turris is a smooth way that to own it or rent it to your customers can bring you a lot of money, and especially it is let's say you don't have to care about it. About the references, because you have to see that we are a couple of years on the market, that we have some success, and our customers are proud to cooperate with us. We have big group of customers which we can't talk about because they are from the defense, they are from army, from police, or critical infrastructure of the republic and whatever. So I prepared a few real slides. Real customer scenarios which we have, let's say, the right to speak about. First one is Sentinel company. This is the company operating on ICT market. They are UK based, and last year they sold hundreds of devices to the US as well. Because they are the device which is measuring quality of the service of the internet, latency, speed, and a lot of other things. And they have the device which is approved or standardized by FCC, and for that reason can be used in the US. Very well for POS, for proving that you, ISP, can prove to FCC that your network is working well, has the right parameters, and you are not, let's say, cheating your customers and so on. The reason why they decided to use the Turris Omnia, because this is Turris Omnia, just only one thing you see over there is a label and firmware. The rest is the same. This is standard Omnia. The reason was that the device is very powerful and reliable, and they can measure the speed up to 2 gigs, which is even more than with a standard, let's say, internet-based protocol is. And we were very quick in the answers with the production of the device in comparison to, let's say, some Chinese companies. This was the reason why Samnos started cooperation with us last year. And we sold hundreds of the device, not just to Europe, but to the US as well. You can say, okay, ICT is fine, and what next? Our next reference is, for example, Osalis. This is a Czech and Slovak-based company, the FMCG one. They had almost 80 branches across the Czech and Slovak market, and those branches has to be connected to their HQ because of the billing system, because of carrying to power stock, because of, let's say, all operations which they have to do. And they were facing a few issues. First, that was the reliability of the product, because quite often they got some routers and they simply broke up, or they didn't get the support, and they had a lot of issues with that, and a lot of overwork, and spent a lot of time and money and energy with solving those issues. So the reliability was one of the key factors. For sure, the price and the performance as well. And from the technical part, there was a requirement for really wide range of the WAN connectivity, because in some location there was fiber, but in some connection there was just only Ethernet, the old good RJ45. Some connection that was completely without any wiring, neither fiber, neither Ethernet, neither copper, so they can plug the LTE into it. And the big advantage is that the router behaves still the same management, let's say same image. And for the customer to operate the router is still the same. That means no additional cost for operation, no additional cost for the people which has to learn how to let's say, manage the router. Well, we cover ICT. We spent some time with FMCG and retail. Now let's see ICT or industrial usage. The Quarmont is a French-based company with a global impact. And they are really cool because they do a lot of things, and they use the fact that the servers, when they are counting, they are producing heat. That's easy. And what shall you do with that heat? You can throw it out through the cooling system, get out of the data center, or you can use it for the heating of the buildings, heating of the rooms, heating of the halls, or whatever. So this French company, they took a lot of server nodes that's inside of this passive cooler, and those server nodes they are counting. And Quarmont is a cloud-based company as well, and they are selling the computing power to their customers, cloud. And they are selling the heat produced by this heater as well. And the advantage of the system is that this is passively cooled, so that means that very reliable system. And Turris Omnia is sitting about those nodes and is managing secure internet connection. Because the servers has to count something, they have to have to be ordered, managed remotely, and they have to have, let's say, a lot of data which they can count and send the counted data back. So this is, let's say, the great future extension and the future of the heating. They are very smart because they get paid twice, once for the heat and second time for the computing. Honestly, they have to pay for the electricity because that's simply otherwise they will be misusing of the system, which is not. And the last one, we reached the Czech Republic, Globe, France, and now let's go to the Nordics, to Sweden. And Swedish district Kalmar, through the operational partner Daylight, is serving the passengers in public transportation by secure Wi-Fi. That works with the way that they took our secure Wi-Fi routers plus LTE modem. We made just slightly hardware changes, slightly software changes, and that the device we put to the bus. And that bus works like, let's say, Wi-Fi point for the passengers in the public transport. And that's used as a secure IoT gateway as well, because around the bus there is hundreds of sensors, air pollution, and temperature, and humidity, and many others. And thanks to the power of the Omnia, they don't have to need more devices than one. And that one device is able to securely connect with the headquarters, is able to count, let's say locally, not in the cloud, all the data, and just send the data to the HQ. And the reason why we decided to take Turris Omnia and cooperate with us, that was that we offer them fully configurable hardware and software. Because we saw the full configuration of hardware and software and very powerful hardware, they need a device enabled to do everything. Or they will need to have few devices, that means the reliability of the system will go down, complexity will go up, the price will go up, and a lot of other things. So, these nice pictures, a lot of blocks I made here in New Orleans, quite close to this exhibition area, and we were working with my colleagues. And what I wanted to say with this one, that in the case that you buy the Turris and you allow the auto updates, that you allow the Sentinel, you allow the Paco, and all of things, you can, but you don't have to. You can cooperate with other people and with other routers in increasing the security like the crowd. And alone, you can't survive. If you are in the crowd, you have even higher chance, and you have not just good feeling that you are supporting other people as well. And that doesn't cost you anything, just few clicks in the road. The rest is on our show. So, thank you very much for attention. It was a pleasure for me to present you some details about the Turris, and looking forward to seeing you on our booth in the case that you will not be there. One Monday. Thank you.
We're getting more. We've got Sentinel's close now. That's kind of
We will see.
Thank you guys.
Thank you guys.
Thank you so much.